Here's the rack from the deer that I shot, 28 inches. This is kind of a good deer for this because the antlers aren't quite symmetrical at all. Your eyes stick out too far and it looks like your deer got kicked in the nuts. Taxidermy is Bondo and Bondo is taxidermy. Hopefully now you'll have some of the tools that took me years to acquire to mount your own critters. What is up, everybody, and welcome back to my channel. This is the series on how to mount a whitetail deer. This is episode or part number 6, how to set eyes. I believe from this video on is probably what everyone's interested in. Now, if you skipped the previous videos, you might not have remotely close to the same results that I'm going to get. You might not get the results I get anyway, because I've done a lot of these. But I'm going to try and work my way through and talk my way through it so that you can get as close as you can or make your own modifications from there. Like I said, this isn't the only way to do this. This is the way I do it, and I get a pretty good result. So without further ado, let's get right into the action here. Not only are we going to set eyes today, but we're going to finalize the rest of the form and get that ready to go. So that means I need to get all my transitions around the eyes to where the clay is going to go. That all needs to be nice and smoothed off there. And I don't know if you can tell, but the nose isn't quite symmetrical. Basically everything I do is to try to build symmetry, whether it's in the nose pad so that it's even on both sides, whether it's the eyes at the right height, the hair pattern as it goes up the nose, the white patch on the throat, everything's symmetrical so that it just presents itself the best. If it's not, you're going to notice it right away and it looks like hell. Now this is what I was talking about. So this isn't quite symmetrical in here. This nose pad here needs to come down. So we're just going to use our sandpaper. Also in here needs to come off of this a little bit. Also, there's a thunderstorm going on, so if we lose power, main light will turn off and it'll go dark and we'll be screwed for the night. So let's hope that does not happen. We're going to kind of build a little bit better nose shape in here. Okay. That's looking more like it. Looking more like what I'm looking for. We're getting there on this nose. Cool. Now this is a Joe Coombs form and they have a tendency to have twisted faces. Fortunately, this one does not have any twist in the face, so we can just get right on with it. I'm using, can you read it? There we go. These are natural eyes from Mackenzie, straight from their website or their magazine. I use 30s. I think everyone uses 32s or recommends 32s. I use 30s. We've measured a lot of eyes at the shop, and 30 is I think what works best for us. 32s will work all the same. I've used the medium colored eyes before. They're fine. I prefer the dark ones. Why did I just lose? Did my... Okay, well that died, so that's cool. All right, we'll just get right on with it. First order of business here is use like critter clay. Use the expensive clay that does not shrink when it dries. Don't be using potter's clay for your eye sets. They will not be good. So, no potter's clay. Use nice clay for this. And I just put clay around here, kind of where I dug that foam out. I don't overdo it. But we're gonna clay that up. Now I left the clay in the middle so I still know how deep the original eye set is. Now throughout this video and these next videos, I'm going to, like I said, people, you know, they're always, look at your reference, look at your reference. Well, how do you make it look like the reference? Well, I'm gonna put some reference photos up to show you some deer that I kind of look like the look of. And I'll use those as kind of guidelines, and hopefully I'll be able to show you side-by-side comparisons here on how this goes. So be very gentle with these eyes. They're glass. They will crack, break, whatever if you drop them, and then you will have to order another one, and it's going to take forever to get in. So, all right. Here's a pupil. Keep that level. The little, this is rounded. This kind of has like a little, where it comes to a point, that goes towards the back. And you just set these right in the corner. Now I got enough clay in there, so now it's just kind of set. I'm not going to adjust it too much yet. I'm just setting that in there and holding it while I grab the other eye. And same thing, pupil, horizontal. I kind of hold it by that, where it comes together at a point, to keep it level as I put it in here. Okay, so that's in. Now let's grab my flashlight so I can see whether it's actually level or not. And that eye is level. This eye is also level. Go me. Okay, now let's take a step back and let's look at it. What did we do here? So, I can already tell that I have more white and red here, meaning the eye is sticking out too far. Now, if I'm gonna have the deer looking this direction, that's okay. And the main thing I look for is, right now, clearly, the left eye is higher. This eye is higher than this eye, and it's also pushed in more. And I know that just by looking at it. You can tell it's just sitting up higher. So we have to push that down or bring the other one up. But I know this is too high, so we're just gonna push it down, push that in, push it down a little bit. Okay, this one's gotta come up a touch. Now I'm using my tool and just kind of moving it like that. Sweet. Now this deer I do want looking this way. So I have to push this in like this, and I pull the back out. That way when I do end up putting there we go, you can kind of see the back's out. That eye's looking this way. This eye's already looking that way. It's a little too much looking that way. I'm going to turn it a little. Get some of this clay out of the way so I can see it. I don't want to turn that far yet, so we're going to bring it back a little. Okay, now let's take a look and see what we did. That's looking a little nicer. You know, you can always put these in and just get them straight. I like to turn them and kind of give it that little extra look. Okay, that looks really nice. Now, I also look for, here's the main things I look for in my eye set. Hopefully I'll be able to zoom in on this camera and you can see it. I look at the distance between this part of the eye, or of the form, and like just kind of drawing a line of where the level of the eye is compared to this. And the same thing here. Okay, that's kind of what I'm looking at. And then also what I'm looking at is how far does this eye stick out? Like how far does the pupil, the apex of the eye, stick out from the back edge of the form? And I'm trying to just make sure that both of those are the same equally on both sides, because that way they're ensured that both eyes are in the correct distance. Now this one's a little further, so we're going to push that in a little. Deer's looking to the left. The eyes are pretty close here to being level. You know, and if you get it wrong and you're not liking it, take them out, reset them, move them around, try them again, reset them. That's looking really good. We're going to leave that. All right, so let me check this camera here. We're at 12 minutes. Yeah, so check the height of the pupils, how far the eyes are in or out compared to, like the apex of the eye sticks out from the back edge of this and the back edge of this the same amount. And I would say it's, you know, I'm looking at it from back here, but it's sticking out 1/4 inch or so. Now because I took some clay, or I pulled this out on the back side over here, I'm going to tuck clay in behind the eye because it's exposed. I can see it on in there. And we will we'll get that going. Get the clay on the back of this, just so that it has something firm to hold it in place. And we'll check it again. And then we'll put our upper and lower lids on. The other thing I think it's important to note when you're setting the eyeballs is how far in or out is this eyeball from the burr of the antlers. I'm going to post some reference photos so you can look. It almost, I mean, on a mature deer, it almost looks like, to me, that the eye is completely inside of the burr, like it sticks out here, or it's at least, you know, halfway. The eye doesn't stick out too far. And I see that a lot on people's mounts where their eyes are sticking out way too far, and then they've got clay on top of that, so it's too much. The eye is subtle. It's not supposed to stick out too far. Okay. Doesn't have anyway, problems where it's bug-eyed. We don't want that. Okay, there's the eye set. So let's start with this eye because you can see it on the camera. All right, here we go. I always start with the bottom first. And I kind of pinch it. You don't have to do this, but I pinch it a little bit so that it just kind of sits in here ever so nicely. I can tell that's too much clay, but it's fine. We'll peel it off later. Okay. Now, what I said before, I think most mounts I see use far too much clay. And they look not good. So you can see, like, that's way too much. And we're just going to get it on here. Now there's a piece of foam missing up here, so I'm going to get that up there. Now we start removing kind of what we put on. And the top of the eyelid is where I start. A piece of foam missing there. Top of the lid is where I start. And the most open part of the eye is right on the first third of the eyeball. So this is where it should be the most open. And then it comes down from there to the back of the eye. You know, as I'm doing this, I'm trying to maintain the same thickness of clay from the front of the eye to the widest part and down. And by thickness, I'm talking about the distance between the top of the clay and the eyeball itself. So not one part is thicker than the other. Then here you go to where this part of the eye, I clean this off all the way. There should be almost no clay here. And that's because that's where my pins go. It's set up that way on purpose, so there's very little clay there. That's my first anchor point when I go to pinning the antlers, or when I go to pin the eye in, that's my first spot. So it just goes right into the form, and then I work off of that. So now, for the lower lid, you want to, like if you draw a straight line from here to the back of the eye, that's how that should look, okay? And then this is just a slow drop down here and a little bit in the middle, and then it comes back up. There's no huge sweeping motion. You know, you might find some reference photos of deer looking different in different positions while they look around. But this is just kind of the most natural looking eye I have come up with. Well, I shouldn't even say I, from how I learned. Okay, and then you transition this so that there's no you have to transition this edge. Feather it down to the form so there's no weird sort of transition. The skin is really thin here if you've done it the way that you have following along. So you need to be sure all the transitions look good, or you're gonna see that. Now if you look from the front, sometimes it's easier to do that, get different views of it. Have a little too much clay here at the front of the eye, so I'm just kind of pushing it back and up. You know, as long as you get this about 95%, you're going to be able to move it around after you get the skin on with the glue and everything else. Okay. We got a nice transition up here to the form. Nothing bulging. A lot of guys, I see this is way too thick. Like look, that's not very thick at all. There's not a lot of clay in there. And then lastly, I use a different tool for tucking this gland in, or the tear duct, whatever you want to call it. I'm not very smart, so I just call them what I call them. And this gets filled with clay. Now remember, we didn't gouge this too deep because you'll just be sitting here with too much clay. It's like putting too much joint compound on your sheetrock. You're just going to be sanding and sanding. It's just going to be fighting it. You don't need to fight it. Okay. So get this shape. Like I said, about 95% there. Because once you get the skin on, you have a little bit of room to play, not a whole lot. Now on this inside edge where it kind of is this flat spot, or it goes in a little bit here, I like to fill this, not with too much, but I like to just fill it with clay. Again, I'm using critter clay. Don't use potter's clay for this. Use the good stuff. And I get clay all the way down the eye here. And then I am going to put a little bit of clay in this corner. Hopefully you can see it. Remember, this is where my first anchor pin goes. Okay. And then I take my tool and I follow it along and I find where that opening is in that duct, and I leave a little bit of clay on both sides, so that when I tuck this in there, I've got some play with the skin, and then I can roll those really nicely. This tool here. A little heavy here yet. That's looking better. Okay. Okay, again, you got a straight line from the front to the back, just dips down ever so slightly and comes up. And it comes around. The widest part is right here. Easy peasy. Lastly, when you were skinning, you take out those little glands on the edge of the follicles on the bottom of the eyelid. I replace that just like this. And you just put this in there. That'll just help you later when you go to set that all up. So that's my eye. Pretty simple. Just get a little water. And in my water, I have a little bit of fabric softener. It's not a whole lot. Just a little. And we'll just smooth that off. the little water, you can really transition everything really nice. There's a piece of foam on there. I'm gonna open that eye a little bit more. Not a whole lot, just a little. Cool. Just like that, we've got one eye done. Now let's move on and do the other eye. It's like the last one, I kind of pinch it so it's angled a little bit, my clay here. And we start on the inside corner. We go up to the back. Need more clay here. Now, you know, even though I've done piles of these, I always do this eye. This eye is more of a challenge for me than the other eye. I just think it's the way that I work. But the nice thing is I like the other eye, so all I have to do is look back and forth and just copy what I did over there, right here. Now I'll get myself 90% there, but then I'll look. So same thing. The first thing I do is I establish my inside corner. That's where my first pin goes. Right there. And then I look at the back of the eye, which is here. And then you just a swooping motion, not too much. I got a lot of clay here. So we can just scrape it off. Again, use critter clay, use nice clay. Don't use crappy potter's clay for your eye sets. Okay. Back of the eye to the front. Then let's work on this top. Like I said, it's not quite how I like it to look compared to the other side. I think we need to add a little bit of clay, but not a lot. Just a fraction of clay on here. Get it wet a little bit. Okay, now I have too much clay, which is perfect because then I can mold it into what I want it to look like. So remember the largest part, like the widest part of the eye being open, is right here, front third, and your back should start to close up. I'll take a peek at the other eye here. Part of my issue is this piece here. needs to get pushed back and up. And if you don't like this, like you don't like your eye set, scrape it all off. Start from 0. Seems like you're going backwards, but you're just doing yourself a favor. You're getting in more reps, and you're learning what you don't like. And sometimes you'll do it and then your good eye is better than your bad eye. Or your bad eye is better than your good eye, and then you gotta go back and fix things. I hold my hands like this so I can get a better look of what the eye looks like. If you can tell, I got more clay on the upper part of the lid than I have over here, just a little bit. And I like this one more, so I'm gonna add a little bit of clay here. And like this is minuscule. This is just a tiny little bit of clay here. And we're gonna get it wet now because we're close. Let's blend this in. You said it's about symmetry, making it match. So take your time, make a match. Let's take a peek now. Oh, much nicer. Still need a little bit more up towards the top, right here. Now, a little water goes a long way on this clay, so don't overdo it. It's still wet from before. Okay, just wet my fingers. Okay, now look at that again. That's perfect. So now let's do that duct, gland, whatever. Same way, we'll just make sure that that is filled with clay. Get a little clay up here, under the skin, so that there's no rough edges from the foam pushing on it. Now, like the other side, I flatten this out with clay. A little more than it is. I don't like that big indent in there. You can always push the clay around after you get the skin on. Then, take my tool, make a little spot. That's where I'm going to tuck my skin. Get this clay evened out a little more. And then I put my lower lid on, my lower lashes glands here. There's a chunk here. It's probably throwing everyone off. It's kind of throwing me off. It doesn't, I mean, it's going to be fine later. But, okay, it's kind of fixed. Now let's take a better look here. I still don't have enough clay on the top of this eye. So we're going to add a little bit more here. Wet. Oh, that actually might be too much. It's gonna be all right. It's feeling nicer. Now I gotta look at the other side and see kind of what we're... I pushed it down too far. Push it back up. That's looking better. Now we'll just kind of take my tool here, pull a little bit off. I had enough, it just wasn't in the right spot. Now it's all in the right spot. Okay. Now I put in my gland, or not my gland, sorry. Now I put in my septum in my nose. So I'm gonna move this a little bit so you can see what I'm looking at here. Whoa, everything's backwards. Here we go. I put my septum in. I literally just use a piece of plastic from a milk jug. This is that slit that I cut out of there with a Sawzall blade. Now I get that jammed in there so it's all the way down. And then I cut off the excess on top so it doesn't push against the skin because that would look terrible. Then again, I use the expensive clay and I just fill the slit I have on top of the nose. Get that wet. What in the hell? It was like it never got wet. Okay. I don't know what it is about these Joe Coombs forms. They're just, once you get a deer mounted on them, they're one of the prettiest mounts I've done. Have been on these forms. Okay, I'm going to do a little bit of cleanup inside the nose. And remember, I got the tool a little too far, or my drill bit a little too far in on this one. You can see it right here. That little, I'm just used to using like a Mackenzie form, and they're a little bit harder. They're harder foamed than this one. So I'm building the nostrils up. Now use the spendy clay, use the nice clay, and fix any of the deals where you need to fix for transitions here. I don't need to, like, I'm not looking to fill the transition inside the nose. I'm literally just smoothing out anything that you're going to see. Later on, we'll go inside the nostril here and we'll fill that all with epoxy and build up against that septum that we just put in there. But we'll do that later. See, like this nose, this nostril needs no foam. This nostril here needs no clay. That one just got a little bit away from me with the drill. Okay. Now, you could switch back to potter's clay if you want, but my potter's clay is stiff and I only have enough loosened up to do ears. So I'm just going to use the critter clay and I'm going to start working the transition between the skull plate and the form. And we'll work around the back and we'll get it all ready. Essentially what we're doing is this is the final stages of what the form is going to need before we put the skin on it. There's a couple really big holes here. I usually don't have to worry about that, but that would have been troublesome possibly. So I'm going to move cameras and get a better look at this. And we're back. All right, we're going to now do all the transition work between the skull plate and the form. Make sure all these transitions are nice and smooth. So when you put your skin on it, you don't have any hard edges. Now, when I do put the skin on, I do go around the antler base with more clay. But that's when I'm ready to tighten all my stitches up. Because you got to fill in the area underneath the pedicle. Now this one's got pretty big gaps in there, so I'll need, not ample, but I'll definitely need plenty of clay. I'll need the appropriate amount of clay, I think is a better way of putting that. Okay, there's a little bit of a ridge here yet. It's kind of a soft ridge, but I don't want any ridge. I want that sucker nice and smooth. Sounds like my daughter is downstairs and about to grace us with her presence. Hi, buddy. How are ya?
What is Dada doing?
Don't touch that, please.
No.
Isla, do you want to be on YouTube?
No.
Mom says no. What are we doing in here?
Nope. Oh, no. She's stepping on it.
That's okay. Just as long as she doesn't step on the ears. Oh! Yeah, look at that. That's nice. What is that?
Yeah.
That's a deer?
Is that a coyote?
That is a coyote. Not Odie. Odie's just a regular dog.
Yeah.
That is a coyote.
Okay.
We
Can you
don't...
say bye-bye to Dada?
Bye, Isla. We don't mount dogs in this house. That's weird.
No.
Well, we don't mount pets.
All right, can we go back upstairs?
Can I give a kiss? Oh, pfft. You got like an antler anti-Hitler stash going on. You got a stash on your chin.
Yeah.
Weirdo.
All right, let's go back upstairs, okay?
I love you.
No, Daddy's gonna stay down here, okay?
Dad's working.
Yeah.
You've been watching Monsters, Inc.?
Yeah, let's go watch Monsters, Inc. Why are you sad?
She wants
Let's
to
go
be.
back upstairs and watch a movie.
She wants me to put her to work.
Can you close the door?
I don't think we want a 2-year-old mountain deer.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Let's go back upstairs.
That was nice of her. Grace us with her little presents. She's the greatest. I don't know if you guys all have kids or not, but sure changes perspective when you got kids. Now, this is when you can kind of you could add in a little bit of your own flair to the deer mount. On this one, I'm not going to do that. On some, you could build up the forehead a little. This deer didn't particularly have something fancy about that. It was pretty flat across the top. Same thing here. You know, if you want to do a little bit of like more jowls, you can do that. This deer didn't particularly have that look where his face was all saggy and weird. So we're just gonna leave it as is and go with that. So at this point, this hide is ready for, this side here is ready, or this form is ready for the hide. So we're gonna put ear butts into the hide in the next video, and then we're gonna get to mounting this sucker. But first we're gonna take one last look at his eyes, his nose. Everything's looking really nice. This deer is gonna turn out really well. I'm gonna grab you a couple of close-up shots with the other camera here so you can see more what I'm looking at, and I'll talk you through it. Since this is arguably one of the most important parts. All right. So let's just turn it like this. And we're gonna go like this so you can see what I'm looking at here. So you can tell in this image here, like, look at the amount of clay on the top lid. Pretty even on both sides. It's kind of what I'm going for. Not too much clay, not too little clay, just the perfect amount. So this form is set, eyes are in it, septum's in it, all the transitions look good between the antlers and the form, inside the nose and the eyes. This one's ready for the skin. So we're gonna jump to the next video. Thank you all for watching. If you have any questions, comments, feel free, please leave them. I'll answer what I can. I'll talk about what I can. Subscribe. Maybe the 10 people watching this would subscribe, who knows. hopefully it helps someone out. So let's move on to the next video. Thank you.